Hello, hello.
Hi there.
Hello. Let's give like 3 minutes or so for folks to hop on, and we'll get started at like 4:05. All right, here we are. So, welcome to our year in review workshop for Moody and Magnetic. I know that this is a bit of a mushy in between week that doesn't really count. And so I also like to take this time to do a lot of inner reflection and to just like make peace with things, celebrate things. And that's really what we're going to be doing in today's class. I was sharing on my Instagram stories today that a lot of what I've been noticing as I've been supporting my clients and just as I've been supporting people in consultations or hearing back from podcast listeners and just like being in community with you all is that it is very common to carry the past into the present moment. And especially if the past has been heavy or disappointing or just not what we hoped it would be, it continues to weigh us down and makes it harder for us to move forward powerfully. And even if we are taking like consistent action towards our manifestations, the energy isn't always there. And so then what we are intending doesn't actually come to fruition because, as we know, manifestation is a combination of the energy with the action taking. And what we put into the action energetically actually influences not just what we do, but how we do it. And how we do it has a really, really big impact on the outcome. So it's not just what we do, but it's how we do it. And the how we do it comes from the energy that we're in while we're doing it. And so if we're bringing all of the past energy into the present moment, then we are not being in our full power. We are not grounded. We are not showing up fully. And so I really want this workshop to help us clear and just create a clean slate so that when we show up in 2026 for our various manifestations, we are showing up light, we are showing up present, we are showing up fully as our best selves and doing so from a place of knowing that we have come to peace with everything that has happened in the past. And I will say this is going to be a 2 hour workshop. This is work that I want you to know that you can always turn to. So with manifestation, sometimes there will be a solstice workshop or a year in review workshop or something like that. And what I have found in my practice is that I just turn to whatever tools I need whenever I need them, regardless of like the time of year or the astrology or whatever it might be. And I want to just offer that to you in case you haven't thought about that before in your own personal practice. But if you really love these practices, or if these practices are particularly challenging and uncomfortable for you, those are both signs to do them more frequently, either so that you can continue to build up the capacity to do the work. If this is something that's challenging, then you just need to practice it. And if this is something that really energizes you, then it can be something that you turn to stay motivated and to keep going. And I think we need a balance of both. And so I'm giving you these tools. They are yours. You can use them every single week if you want to, or you can use them like once or twice a year. It's really up to you, but trust yourself. And remember, just keep in the back of your head the purpose of everything that we're doing today is to help you create closure. And closure is really about being at peace with something. And a lot of the times in society, we believe that closure has to come from outside of us. Like, I know, for example, when my engagement ended in 2023 and it was like very abrupt and I didn't really understand why it was happening, I had a conversation with my therapist where it became like very clear that my ex was like shutting down communication and just like I would never hear from them about why it happened, but I needed to create closure within myself. And I would honestly say that that work 2 years ago started the catalyst of me being on this journey of creating closure for myself and knowing how to do that and applying that in various aspects of my life. So whether it's in my relationships, in my business, whatever is going on, like I love knowing that I can create my own closure and that I don't need something external to happen before I can feel at peace about whatever is occurring in my life. And so I'll also just offer you that, regardless of what happened and regardless of the circumstances around what happened, you always have the power to create your own closure. And these practices that we're going to do today are going to help you create closure within yourself so that you are not feeling dependent on the externals in order to dictate how you feel about what's going on in your life. So I think that's enough of an opening. I'm sure I'll have more to say, but let's dig in because it's already going to be long. The first thing that I want you to just think about for yourself, whether you are on Zoom or whether you're on the replay, just get clear on what led you here. Why are you here? Why did you decide to show up to this? Why did you take time to come and to do this work? And so sit with it, journal through it. I'm going to give us a minute on the clock to just really like be with ourselves and think about why we're here and really like what part of us led us here, what brought us to this moment, and to just honor and acknowledge that we are here for a reason. So, 1 minute on the clock and just journal through like what brought you here. All right, finish up whatever thought you're on. And if you want to share what brought you here in the chat, you are welcome. And I can kind of incorporate that into class today. So that's kind of one of the cool things about being here. But no matter what, just make sure that you're clear within yourself on why you're here. And remember that you are here for a reason. And so this is kind of what we're going to be doing together. So the first thing that I want to make sure you have before you leave is clarity and a deep understanding of what unfolded in 2025. So it's not just about, knowing what happened, but knowing and understanding are two different things. And understanding implies a level of depth to where you can go out and create that result again, or you can go out and decide intentionally to create a different result. So when you know what happened, that's one layer, but when you understand what happened, that gives you more power and that puts you more in the space where you can intentionally manifest and design for the future. So we're going to work on clarity and we're going to work on a deep understanding today. I also want to make sure, as I've been saying, that you're going to have closure about anything that was challenging in this past year. And then we're also going to work on cultivating some excitement about what is ahead in 2026. And then I will give you some guidance at the very end of class on how to use the different Moody and magnetic resources to keep the ball rolling. So, as you know, this is a workshop that is part of a bigger program. And the reason why I wanted to have this be an internal workshop rather than like the public ones that I do is because this work dovetails so nicely with everything that we do in Moody and Magnetic. So I have a slide at the end that points out specific modules and just places you might want to look in Moody and Magnetic in order to keep deepening the work that we're doing today. And then we are also going to do a year ahead workshop on 11/11, same time of day. That is a Sunday. So just keep that in mind. I wanted to do it on 11/11 and that falls on a Sunday. So that's just what's happening. And of course, you will have the recording if you cannot make it. But we have really, really beautiful exercises planned to help you create vision, create goals, and to do so in a way that feels very empowering. And one of the things that I have in mind for this workshop too is just like making sure that you create a vision that you can energetically get behind and that stretches you, but that keeps you in that sweet spot of like, I'm stretched and this is going to cause me to grow, but it is not so out there that I feel like I can't even take action on it because I have no idea where to even start. So we're going to work on that in the year ahead workshop, and I'm very, very excited. But for now, we are going to do the work to create the clean slate so that we can have a clean and just like open canvas for planning the next year. Okay, so let's create the clarity and the understanding first. So we're going to be reviewing the year holistically. A lot of the times we just focus on certain areas of our life more than others. I know in the past I have been very lopsided and not focused on my physical health and my body, but focused really intently on my career, or not focused on my relationships, but focused mostly on my career. And a lot of the work I've been doing in the past 2 years too has been like balancing out my life and putting my intention into all the places versus just like focusing really intently on one area, which for me has been career. For other people, it might be really people focus on their body and their health, but they don't focus on their relationships, whatever it is. I want us to practice in Moody and Magnetic and in general, just reviewing our life holistically and having holistic intentions. So I thought about 4 different life areas that we want to focus on: your relationships, your body, your finances, and your career. And I have the finances and the career separate because your finances are more about how you relate to money in general. So anything that you're spending, your investments and your retirement, your income itself, and then really just like looking at how much money you have, how much money you want to have, and how you use money. So, really, like the money category of your life. And then your career, which obviously involves money and it's linked up to finances, but it also involves things like your purpose, the impact that you're having in the world, the way that you feel about what you're doing in exchange for money and how that influences like your time and like all these other things. And so I keep those two separate. And then obviously your body, which includes your health, your fitness, your wellness, anything related to that, your sleep, stuff like that. And then your relationships. So different types of relationships we might be in, relationships with friends, family, spouse. I don't have on here your relationship with yourself because everything we do in Moody and Magnetic comes back to your relationship with yourself. So that's just like something that we're always thinking about and working on. But we do want to think about our relationships with other people. And so for this class, we only have time to go through 2 life areas. And so I want you to just think about 2 that you would like to focus on for the sake of today. And then you are welcome to go repeat this process for the other 2 if this is a practice that you really love and if you are also intentionally creating more balance in your life as I am. So think about which 2 you might want to focus on today. And then for area number 1, we're going to start off with celebrations. So, as I said, we're looking at understanding, not just knowing. So, make a list of all the positive things that you can think of that happened in that area of your life. And then for each positive thing, start to write down how you helped facilitate it. So, what role did you play in creating that positive result? And you might have to think a little bit more deeply in terms of like, oh, well, someone else showed up and did something for me. But what did you do to create the container where they felt comfortable showing up or where, whatever it is that you might have in your life. Like I know I was coaching someone recently and she was talking about how supportive, or I think this person uses they pronouns. They were talking about how supportive their spouse is. And one of the things that I had them look at is like, okay, what are you doing to create a container where your spouse can show up for you in that way? Or just even like being proud of yourself that you're with this person in the first place. So, like, thinking about what you can give yourself credit for each of the positive things that happened. And that is going to help you facilitate understanding that you can then use to reproduce similar results in the future. So, I'm going to put 10 minutes on so we have plenty of time. And then I'll also tell you at the 5 minute mark so that you don't get like just like lost in space. But really use this as an opportunity to dig deep and just really like let yourself celebrate all the things happening in that area of your life. And I'm going to do this alongside you as well. Also, I didn't say this, but we're going to be doing a lot of journaling today. So if you want to put on any like background music that you like to journal to, that might be fun and cozy. And so you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, we're about 5 minutes through, so if you have not already started to list out your role and give yourself credit for the positive things, this would be a good time to start doing that. We've got about 1 more minute, so feel free to start wrapping up those thoughts. All right. So hopefully you have celebrated yourself and then also gained some of an understanding of how you are helping to facilitate the positive things that are happening in your life. And then one thing I'll just offer here as well is that as you notice what you're doing to help facilitate the positive things that are happening, remember that you can turn these things into habits if you haven't already. And so just remember that everything that you're doing that is helping to improve your life is something that you always have the option to keep doing more of. And the more we do these things, the more we create similar outcomes. And this, again, is how we stay in our power and how we remember that what we do really does make a difference and really does influence the trajectory of our life. So it's not like anything is just happening to us, whether it's positive or negative, and we always have the power to create more of what we want. Okay, so now we are going to check in on our goals. And so the first question, sticking with the same area, did you have a goal for this area of your life? And this is just a simple yes or no. Did you have a goal? If so, what was the goal? And so you can take a moment now and just write down like what the goal was if you had one. If not, why did you not have a goal? And any answer is okay. It's not like you need to have goals in every area of your life, but just take a moment to reflect and see like, okay, not having a goal is also a choice. So why did I make that choice? Um, And then you want to go into, and I'll set us a timer so you can like do this more slowly. But then you just want to look at like, did you meet your goal? And you should clearly know if you met your goal or not. So if your goal was something ambiguous where you can't tell whether or not you met your goal, then take a moment and look at like why you had a goal that you could not easily determine whether or not you hit it. And that'll just tell you something right there that's just like interesting and helpful for you to know. But with goals, the guidance I always offer is that we want to be able to tell whether or not we hit the goal because we want to be able to celebrate ourselves in a very tangible and candid and just like grounded way of like, I set out to do something, and yes, here it is in my reality. I did it, I manifested it. And then if you didn't hit your goal, you want to make sure you know that because that allows you to really learn from whatever it is that you did. And we have more in terms of learning, but you always want to know whether or not you hit your goals. It should never be vague or ambiguous. So you should know if you hit your goal, yes or no. And then, regardless of what happened, if you hit the goal or not, you just want to reflect on why did it happen that way? So, in your own words, whatever reasoning you can come up with, this is just an exercise in helping you understand, again, like create an understanding of why things are happening in your life the way that they are, regardless of whether you're, hitting your goals or not. So I'm going to give us 5 minutes for all of this, and I'll give us kind of checkpoints along the way, just like I did before. And if you need more time at the end of the 5 minutes, you can let me know. Also, depending on the area you chose, you might have had more than one goal. And so you can go ahead and just like fill in whatever information is relevant to you. And again, if you need more time because you had more than one goal, then you just let me know. But yeah, something that occurred to me. All right, we're halfway through our 5 minutes. And so feel free to just transition to the next question if you haven't already. All right. So wrap up those thoughts. And then this is one of those exercises that can bring up emotions sometimes, discomfort. And I want this to be a space where we can hold that and practice like processing through that. And so I wanted us to just use this time to coach and specifically on your goals check exercise that we just did. So if you would like some coaching on that, you can add your goals check responses to the chat and we can coach on those that way. Also, because we have a very, very small group, if you want to come off mute and just kind of share with me how that was for you, then I'd be happy to coach you and support you that way too. Um, so yeah, let me know. Okay, now the recording is back. Okay, just reading through what happened in the chat. I had two goals I didn't complete, income 200K and writing a book. I made really good progress on the book, but then lost steam when it didn't come together as easily as I wanted. I see how with both of these, I had a lot of resistance to changing to become the version of me who took the needed actions. Okay, so the book, I sort of sidestepped into the podcast, which was a real success. Okay, okay, yeah. I do remember that in the beginning of the year you were working on a book and you were also doing the daily podcast. Is it true that you were doing the podcast and the book at once? And then, oh, yeah, what's that?
Yeah, that's right. I was working on both and felt like the podcast there was something about the like bite-sized daily action of the podcast that kept me moving in a way that I was doing a similar like take an hour a day to work on the book. Um,
Mhm.
but I wound up feeling like it didn't have quite as much momentum. And I didn't like let the book fall to the wayside so much as decide like, oh, the podcast is where the like creativity is sort of moving
Mhm.
forward. And
Mhm.
I felt like, and I still feel like the podcast was sort of like honing those ideas and
Mhm.
like that the book is percolating. Something I've learned about my creative process is that I like dip into and out of big projects a bunch of times before they actually like come together. So I feel like that's what's
Mhm.
going on there. Um, but but I really like when I look back at the year and like the sort of big manifestation, whether the book or more importantly, I think the income goal, which I've been through several waves of this, is that I really wanted it to just like happen magically. And actually, what I wrote down here is it was like I wanted the universe to prove that it loved me without me needing to become a new version of myself. And from here, I can see how that actually wouldn't have been love, right? Like that part of the gift is that I've been sort of like forced to see the places where I wasn't being upright with myself through that.
Mm. Okay, this is really beautiful. And I do have some coaching to offer. I want to clarify of the two goals, would it be more helpful to have the coaching around the income or around the book?
Mm, let's do the income.
Okay, okay. So you mentioned here with the income, it sounds like you had resistance to changing to becoming that new version of you. And this piece of wanting the universe to prove that it loved you without you having to become a new version, this is kind of where I want to do the coaching. So the universe loves you regardless. There's no, singular expression of love. And that's a very important concept that I'm happy that you brought up because I know anyone listening to this also probably needs to hear this. But this idea that like we want the universe to demonstrate love to us in a particular way always hurts us way more than we realize. And what I would encourage all of us to do is to really make a practice of knowing that we are unconditionally loved and looking to receive the love that is all around us always. And that's actually something that I started doing really intently in 2021. Um, just because of like some other healing work that I was doing. But there was this idea where I just started to actively say to myself that I was willing to receive all of the love that was around me and to not perceive a lack of love because it sounds like there's kind of this sense of like I'm not perceiving love right now and I will only perceive love from the universe in this very specific way. And in the same way that with interpersonal relationships, there's been all this research about like love languages and the fact that love can be expressed in all these forms. The same is true with our relationship with the divine. Like love is always being expressed towards us. And often it is about where we have the capacity to receive the love, not whether or not the love is there. And so we can and we get to actively increase our capacity to receive support through money. And I always say that money is about support, not so much about love, because again, it's like the love is always just like so unconditional and all encompassing. And it is a practice to remember that and to know that daily that you are unconditionally loved and that the love never goes away. Even if the container or the form or the shape changes, the like net amount of love, which is infinite, is always there. But it can look different in different seasons of our life. And that's, something that we just want to make peace with and recognize. And then the opening up to money, again, is like opening up to support, um, and being cognizant of all the ways that money supports you and being open to having more support so that you can be supported in these specific ways that money can provide. Like money is a very specific type of support that can do certain things that, not having money really doesn't allow you to be supported in the same way that having money does, just qualitatively. Like you can take money and buy someone a gift, or you can take money and pay off your credit card, or you can like take money and do certain things, right? And we want to just be aware and in tune with like when I'm receiving money, that is specifically me receiving a form of energetic support that allows me to do very specific things, not a proof of whether or not I'm loved or not an expression of love. So just like noodle on that for whoever that's relevant for. And then we will talk also about like changing into a new version of yourself. So keeping in mind that you are loved regardless of what version of yourself you're being at a given moment. Um, really what we want to shift, yes, we shift the action, but the way that we get the action to shift is shifting into the version of ourself that knows I am unconditionally loved, regardless of what I do, regardless of how I feel, regardless of how I show up in space. So, how do I want to show up? Like, what do I want to do, knowing that I'm not doing it to earn love, but knowing that the action I take has a direct result, a corresponding outcome in the world? What is the outcome that I want to create in the world? And what is the action that's going to help me get there? And how can I cultivate the desire to take that action through being in touch with my desire to have this outcome? And that really is like the work that we want to do. But the first step is getting out of the energy of like, I will only believe the universe loves me if I see very specific things. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Does anything come up initially, just as I say all of that? Because I know that was a lot.
No, that what you said resonates. Yeah, I don't have anything particular coming up.
Okay, amazing. And this is work that obviously will continue to unfold, but that was what felt right to share here. Um, and just, yeah, remember that changing your action is always what comes out of you just making very powerful decisions about who you are and what you want, and knowing that you are, because you want certain things, you want to do certain things to create those things. But again, there's always more to be said on this, but that's what feels good for now. Um, and now, sticking with area number one of your life, we're going to create some closure. One very powerful way to create closure is to become aware of what you are learning through the challenging experiences that you go through. So I'm going to give us 5 minutes and we're just going to make a list of some challenges that you faced in this area of your life. So remember finances, career, body, or relationships. So what are the challenges that you faced in this area? What did you learn from those challenges? And then how are these challenges preparing you for your next chapter? That's actually quite a bit. So I'm going to give us 7 minutes and then I'll let you know again when we're like partway through. Um, yeah, I'll let you know at like 4 minutes. And just see what your mind wants to offer you here. It's not about having all the perfect, most wise answers, but it's just about like being curious and being honest about what comes up for you when you sit with these questions. Okay, so it's been about 4 minutes. And if you need to move on to the next question, you are welcome to. All right, so that was our closure exercise. If there was any lesson that you learned that feels really valuable, profound, insightful, or just something that you want to pass on to the collective, you are welcome to drop it in the chat. I will share a lesson that I learned that came up when I was journaling. So there was something that, in terms of like a challenge that I faced, I realized that the reason I was facing that challenge was because what I said I wanted and what I really did want was not lined up with what I was prioritizing. And so I was wanting it without prioritizing it. And because I wasn't prioritizing it, it created a lot of challenges for me in being able to actually get what I wanted. And I did really interesting and like supportive work around seeing how my priorities were really a reflection of my self-image. And then as I was healing my self-image, which is like a lot of the work that I did this year was healing my self-image, as I was healing my self-image, my priorities began to shift. And that made it easier for me to take the action that was supportive for me. So now it's like the challenges are turning around, but the deeper work that I needed to do was actually on my self-image, and that allowed my challenges to kind of get resolved by way of me feeling like I could show up differently because I had new priorities in my life. So that is something that I really learned this year. Your lesson is you know without a doubt that you show up for yourself even when things are hard. That is such a powerful lesson. And what also a beautiful self-image to have. Like that's just amazing. And I know that it was a journey to get to that place. So that's like something really beautiful to celebrate as well. Um, and then in terms of how these challenges are preparing you for your next chapter, like I said, whatever comes to mind is perfect, but just remember that nothing is wasted. Um, a lot of times in my healing journey, when things were hard, I used to feel like things were happening and they were hard, and that like there was no point to it. And it just felt like this, like almost like senseless suffering and hardship. Excuse me, senseless suffering and hardship. And this was when I was like really, really in my like deepest pain and depression time in my life. But when I started to just entertain the idea that I didn't have to feel like it was a waste and that I could believe that there was value in every experience I had, that allowed me to get this closure, like we're saying, and to really like move forward with my life. So really just entertaining the idea that everything you go through is helping you and is preparing you is really important work. And it might be something that you need to practice. Um, Something that you have been working with. What if every setback is actually a setup or a training ground for what's coming? Yes, yes, yes. I love that. That is exactly the sentiment that this exercise points to. Okay, so now the final thing that we'll do for this area of our life is cultivate excitement about what 2026 comes or what is coming in 2026. So, based on everything that we've gone through, the wins, the challenges, the lessons, what are you looking forward to in this area of your life for 2026? And we will just take 3 minutes because we have a whole year ahead workshop coming, but I want us to just get the ball rolling and think about what we are excited about given everything that we reflected on. All right. So hopefully we have cultivated some excitement for what is to come. If there's anything you're excited about that you want to share in the chat, you are welcome to. Um, and I will also say, whenever we get to the energy of looking forward to something, it's also just a very powerful manifestation tool because when we're looking forward to it, we are in that place of like certainty that it's going to happen. And so if you are ever struggling to believe that something will happen or finding yourself in a lot of like self-doubt, I always say in my affirmations, like, I'm looking forward to enjoying blah, blah, blah. And that helps me practice my faith. So anytime you're looking forward to something, you are practicing your faith, and that is great. And yeah, you're welcome to share anything in the chat. Your biggest lesson for this exercise is seeing how dang steadily you have shown up on a bunch of things. I am so proud of you for recognizing that because you really have been showing up so steadily, and so unconditionally, even when the outcome wasn't coming the way that you wanted, and you know that showing up is going to serve you in 2026. Yes, it really, really will. You really planted the seeds of consistency, which is the biggest hurdle that a lot of people have to overcome in order to create the results that they want. So, very proud of you for that. Okay, so we are going to run through this again with another life area. And I want us to do the two life areas in this workshop because it's nice to see how the way that you're thinking about one area of your life might be like very different from how you're thinking about another area of your life. And I wanted to be here to coach on that as well. And so if you haven't already, pick your second life area just off of this list. And gotta run. Okay. We will see you tomorrow. Okay. Why is my hand raised? Oh, because I because I waved. So pick your second life area and we will go through all of these exercises again, and then we will close out with some discussion about what is to come in Moody and Magnetic and how you can use the resources in Moody and Magnetic to cultivate the oh, sorry. This raise hand is so distracting. I'm trying to get it to lower. But in any event, we will close out with a conversation about how you can use what you are learning in Moody and Magnetic to kind of keep the energy high and keep the ball rolling with the work that we're doing in today's workshop. Okay. So, as we just did, let's go through the clarity and understanding exercise for your first life area, starting with our celebrations, or your second life area, starting with your celebrations. So I'm going to put 10 minutes on the clock for us again. Feel free to use cozy journaling music if you are not already, and let's get some clarity and understanding about the year. All right, we are about 5 minutes in. So if you need to start giving yourself credit for things, you can go ahead and flip over to the next question. All right. I don't know why my hand is still raised, but we're just gonna leave it because I literally don't know how to lower. Oh, lower hand. Okay. Okay, amazing. I hope you've given yourself credit for some of the beautiful things, for all of the beautiful things that have happened in this area of your life, and that you are in touch with your own agency. And hopefully, you have some ideas for habits that you can get into and just like things that you can continue to do and amplify so that you can continue to create beautiful things in your life. So, same as before, let's do the goals check. So, did you have a goal? If so, what was the goal? If not, why did you not have a goal? Again, nothing wrong with not having a goal. The only thing I would say is you don't want to have a vague goal. So, you should clearly be able to tell, did you meet your goal or not? And then, in your own words, why did it unfold that way? Let's do 5 minutes for all of this, and then I will let us know when we are halfway through the 5 minutes. Do. Oh, this is something that I didn't say when we were doing area one, but when you're looking at in your own words, why did it unfold that way? Challenge yourself to think about things that are within your control as much as possible because that's where your own agency lies, and those are the things that you can shift. So we want to get away from thinking that our outcomes are out of our control, and we want to just practice noticing where we had a choice and what choices we made that facilitated the outcomes that we got in our life. So something to keep in mind. And we are halfway through the section. So if you have not already started to reflect on why things unfolded the way that they did in this area of your life, this is your invitation to start that reflection. All right, so that is our goals check exercise. If you need more time or if you want to reflect more deeply, of course, you can always pause this and give yourself as much time as you need. But for the sake of this workshop, we are going to move forward. This is where we would do a coaching check-in, and this is what I'm going to give you as an invitation. If you are watching the replay, you are more than welcome to email me what came up during this goals check exercise, and I will coach you via email. That is one of the perks as a Moody and Magnetic student is you can always email me and get coaching. And so take what you wrote if you want some coaching on it. Take what you wrote and email it to me with the subject line Moody and Magnetic Coaching and let me know that this is what came up in your goals check exercise. And then I will email you back with some reflections, or if I have follow-up questions, I'll ask you follow-up questions, but we can do some really good coaching over email. And that is just my reminder there that that is available to you. And now we are going to move into creating closure and just looking at this second area of your life, same as before. What are the challenges that you faced in this area? What did you learn from these challenges? And how are these challenges preparing you for your next chapter? We are going to do 7 minutes on the clock, and I will let you know when we are halfway through our time. All right, we are halfway through this exercise. So if you have not already started to learn from the challenges or just outline your lessons, make sure that you do that and then give yourself some time as well to reflect on how these challenges are preparing you for your next chapter. All right, it's our final minute. So if you haven't already, transition to reflecting on how these challenges are preparing you for your next chapter. All right, so take a moment, really just like crystallize any lessons that you learned. A big theme that came up for me in this second area of my life was actually, again, this theme of prioritization and not always prioritizing the actions that would help me reach my goals. So specifically, I was looking at fitness for my second area or, body overall, but I was thinking about two fitness goals that I had. And I did show up and move my body pretty much every day this year, but I was not always moving my body in the way that would have gotten me to my fitness goals. So last year, I hit a major fitness goal, which was I wanted to learn how to run. And specifically, I wanted to be able to run for 30 minutes and I wanted to be able to run a 5K. And I had a program, Couch to 5K. I just followed that and then I was able to do it. And I prioritized showing up to do that program. It is 3 runs a week, and I prioritized doing my 3 runs a week, even when it was hard, even when I, fell out of the habit. I, especially towards the end, like, it's a 9-week program. So when it got to be like week 4, I was like, I am gonna do this literally no matter what. And I really prioritized getting my 3 runs in every single week. And I completed the program and I hit my goal. Now, with my current fitness goals that I have, I did not have the same level of prioritization. So it would be like, okay, well, I'm moving my body, but I'm not always doing the thing that is directly tied to my goal. And part of that comes down to, at least with this fitness thing, being honest with myself about how important it is to me that I hit these goals and not downplaying it or talking myself out of it, but remembering that, like, for me, I have these goals and they matter just because they matter to me. And so the fact that they matter to me is enough of a reason to prioritize them. And I think I was kind of bringing this like mentality of like, oh, well, as long as I move my body and then I'm not sedentary, and being sedentary is really the issue, but as long as you're active, then you're fine. But I didn't want to just settle for like being active. I wanted to hit these goals, but I wasn't letting myself prioritize the things that would have me hitting the goals. So I'm sure that there's more I'll say on this. I actually have a podcast episode in the works where I'm sharing the lessons that I learned in 2025, and this is definitely going to be one of them. And I'm so happy that we did this workshop because I did not even have this on my list. I didn't realize how big of a deal this was. And the fact that it showed up in 2 areas of my life really tells me that this is a big, meaningful lesson, and that as I integrate this lesson, I will be able to reach my goals across multiple life areas. So that's another thing I wanted to say here too. The beauty of looking at various areas of your life and not just overly focusing on one is that you can see the consistency, but you can also see the differences. So you might have different lessons popping up in area 2 than what popped up in area 1. And that is also really valuable because then you get a chance to learn things that maybe you wouldn't have learned about yourself or about the world or whatever the lesson may be. You are learning something that you wouldn't have learned if you had only focused on that other area of your life. So all of it is really beautiful. And now, finally, we are going to cultivate some excitement for that second area of our life. So, 3 minutes on the clock, based on everything that we reflected on, the challenges, the wins. What are you looking forward to in this area of your life for 2026? And remembering that as you look forward to something, you are exercising your faith around it as well. So it's very powerful for manifestation. But I will put 3 minutes on and I will let you know when there's 1 minute left, and you can go ahead and reflect. All right, 1 minute left. Okay, so these were the exercises that I had for us in terms of reviewing the year. I'm going to lower my hand one more time. These were the exercises that I had for us in terms of reviewing the year. I would really, really encourage you to find a pocket of time to go through the other areas, the two that you did not do, and just walk yourself through the different exercises so that you can have a holistic understanding of your life and of the various trends and differences and similarities. It's just, again, such beautiful, important work. And actually, for me, because I spend so much time extensively reviewing and learning from my business, I chose to focus on two different life areas during our workshop today. And it honestly really helped me to see what's going on beneath the surface in my life and also to celebrate things that I don't normally pay attention to because they're not in my like primary area that I tend to focus on the most. So again, so it's really cool work. I hope that you got a lot out of it. And to help you build on everything that we did today, I want to direct you to a couple of places in Moody and Magnetic. So we have a module called Closing Chapters, which is where you will really learn how to intentionally end a season of your life that you are no longer interested in perpetuating. So when I was teaching that module, I was talking about the exercises that helped me and the full-time job that I was in when I wanted to leave that job and focus more on my business. And so there were a lot of things that I did to intentionally close out that season of my life. And if you have some seasons and some patterns or just like some circumstances that you want to end in 2026, then the closing chapters module is really, really going to help you. I don't have it on here, but there's also a module in Manifestation for Sensitive Souls. Module one, the very first lesson. So, module one teaches a couple of things. Not all of them are super directly related to this work, but the first practice that I teach you about creating closure from the past and really making peace with the past, those are different exercises that I didn't give you today, but that are also very powerful and important. And if there's something where maybe you're holding a grudge against yourself or against someone else or against the universe, and you want to just like be clean and be free and like let that energy go so that you don't carry it into your future manifestations. Go to Manifestation for Sensitive Souls and then watch the first section of module one and do that exercise. And that will also really help you to just like seal off the energy of 2025. And then, of course, you can always get coached. I am here to help you directly on your manifestation journey. So always write to me with the subject line Moody and Magnetic Coaching, and I will coach you via email. And then, of course, if I, need more information, if I have follow-up questions, I will always just email you back and ask you follow-up questions. But don't worry about giving the perfect coaching request. Just describe your situation to me and do your best to ask a question. And I will work with you back and forth to make sure that you get the coaching that you need. And then, of course, we have our coaching calls, and the call schedule or like the cadence of the calls will always be up to date inside the member portal along with the Zoom calls. And you will also always get email reminders when we have a coaching call. So utilize the coaching, tune into those two places in Moody and Magnetic. And then, of course, you might feel intuitively called to go to a certain module. Follow that, trust that the program is here to help you manifest. And a big part of manifestation is the work we did today, closing off things, creating a clean slate, creating closure. And so I'm very proud of you for doing this work. And I'm very much looking forward to supporting you next year as we do this work more deeply. Um, we have a coaching call on Monday the 5th. That's just open general coaching. Whatever you need support with, you can come and bring your questions to the call. Of course, if you can't make it, you can get email coaching. And then we have the year ahead workshop on 111, which, like I said, it's a Sunday. So we'll meet that Sunday. And then on the 12th, we will not have any calls. So that is going to be our like stand-in for that week. We'll do a similar 2 hour workshop going really deep into setting intentions, setting goals, and making a real plan to manifest the outcomes that you are looking for in 2026. Okay, I love you so, so much. It means the world to me that you're here and that we get to do this work together. And I cannot wait to support you further for the whole rest of the year. And I've just got some really juicy, amazing programming planned that I know you're going to love. So I'll see you again very, very soon in another call, in another workshop. And I am sending you lots of love until then. Mwah. Take care.